Resume recording, and we are officially recording.
Okay, so welcome to the Northeast EDC podcast. This is episode 1, and we are just testing this out, see if it's going to be a thing. If it's not, then this is the only episode it's ever going to be. And so today, my name is Dryan, and we have Joe Bravo as my co-host, and we're just going to go through introductions, who we are, what this podcast is about, and go from there. So, Joe, you want to start?
Yeah, what's happening, Ryan? This is Joe Bravo from Mo Bravo Knife Reviews. And I know a lot of you have seen me on YouTube doing comparison videos, reactions, unboxing. And I've been having a lot of fun doing that. And Ryan had come up with this idea to develop a podcast where we could not only show off the knives, we could talk about what's coming up in the knife industry, the knife community, speak to the audience about what really speaks to us, and really come up with dialogue and communication so that we can really be a proponent for what people in the knife community want to hear and want to talk about. So, Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before I stop rambling?
So, I created a little format so we can be a little bit constructed here in the things we say. So it's just not two guys talking about random stuff and having no sort of structure to the whole entire podcast. So in the beginning, so we're going to introduce like what got us into the EDC community and what this podcast is going to be all about and everything. Joe touched base on what we're going to be talking about. So what first got me into EDC is actually photography. So a little background about myself. I freelance photography in New York City. So I follow a lot of photography influencers on social media. One of the most notorious ones is Peter McKinnon. He also has an off-brand called Pete's Pirate Life, which is his EDC style, and that's pretty much like what got me into EDC because I watched one of his videos one day, and he did a "What's in My Pocket" video, and I saw that he had a Spyderco Para 3, and I thought it was a really cool looking knife, and that started my EDC collection. I went on Amazon and just bought a Para 3 lightweight as my first EDC knife. That was almost a year ago, last July actually. So I started my collection in little less than a year ago. So Joe, what started your EDC addiction?
It's funny to think about how yours is only less than a year old, and I've been collecting knives probably since sixth grade. I remember I had a Gerber pocket tool, and I thought it was the coolest thing that you could flick it, and
Mhm.
the pliers would pop out of it. And I said, "This is awesome." I used to sleep with that under my pillow, and then fast forward 20 years to I got into paramilitary twos, Spydercos, Benchmades, Kershaw's really got me into it with the torsion bar assistant, the speed safe. So I had a leak, I had a speed bump, I had a blur, and I really got into the zero tolerance stuff, and I was really all about it. Had some really nice fixed blades, and then the stupid Spyderco second sale fucked me. I mean, it got me good. I managed to get my hands on a Spyderco Paisan. Here it is, an integral Verzanti that's collaborated. This is the
It,
best of the best.
it's pronounced Paisan. I thought it was like Payson.
Yeah, you talk to everybody else. I'm in the Guinea, so he's a
Mhm.
Paisan. I don't know what you really call it,
I,
but.
I just found out that the other day that I've been pronouncing the Sliss Bowie or whatever wrong. It's supposed to be pronounced the Swish Bowie.
Oh, I know. Shabazz says that the first time, you watch
Yeah.
that review, he don't even know how to say it. And, what can you tell you? We read it. We don't have a knife store with 1,000 knives in it at our disposal. We're not
Right.
talking to the makers. We're not talking to manufacturers.
Hmm.
Somebody wants to correct us. I promise you, I don't know everything and I don't pretend to know everything.
Oh yeah,
So,
we're definitely going to be talking and then like getting our foot stuck in our mouths probably. But yeah, like I've started my collection less than a year ago, like really started like collecting, but I mean knives has been like pretty much like part of my childhood. I mean like not necessarily like in a large portion of it, but more of like just here and there. Like I've always had knives, like just, but not like high quality knives, just like Walmart gas station knives and stuff like that. So this podcast is pretty much, sorry about the coughing too, because I'm just getting over being sick. But anyways, the podcast is going to be us talking about like the different knives that we're interested in, other EDC tools such as like pry bars and flashlights, possibly watches. This can go in a lot of directions, but it's primarily focused on EDC and on all the EDC items that we're mostly going to focus on. It's just like knives, but we will be talking about other EDC stuff and like whatever questions you guys may have. Those of you guys in the knife community on social media, such as like Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, that know us, like can give us like ideas or ask us questions or like topics to talk about on this podcast. So the first thing I want to talk about is funny sales stories or just sales stories in general. So Joe sells a lot of knives, a lot of high-end knives online. He gets them, he plays with them sometimes, and then he just moves on to the next thing. That's pretty much like what a lot of people in the hardcore knife community does. So Joe, what any decent stories you have?
Yeah, I got a buddy of mine who was trying to sell Roosevelt. That was an OZ, and they're a real hot commodity. They got a decent table price. I think it's around $700, $800 you can get yourself into. He had one listed at $1,700, and he said he had a trade offer, and the trade offer was for a Zippo and a flashlight. And at first I thought the guy was kidding. I said, "This is a $1,700 knife." So unless that guy had a gold Zippo and a gold flashlight, we were both laughing about how other people's evaluations of what they have very well might have been worth $1,700 in trade fodder. It also could have been worth $800 in trade fodder, which was the actual table price of the knife. And it's so funny, how people have different interpretations of what something's worth and try and use to get, a trade evaluation.
Well, in the knife community, right? There's this saying that goes around where it's a knife is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? Like a normal person that like encounters a knife, they don't think like, oh, this knife. Like they don't think like when they're holding like something like a Roosevelt or like a custom in hand, they don't think like, oh, this knife is over $1,000, and I can see why. Most people like hold $100 knives and be like, wow, this knife is so overpriced. Like, why is it so overpriced? But like people in the knife communities understand why, because there's different nuances and I would say like just care and craftsmanship that goes into each knife. So that's what justifies the knife, and justification in itself is subjective. So, I mean, that person with the Zippo, maybe they're in like some sort of like unknown EDC Zippo community with like a high-end Zippo that we're just ignorant of, you know?
I do. And that's what's really funny about this community, this EDC community. You could be making out like a bandit, it'd be $1,000 over trade fodder and not even know about it because A, you're not familiar with it. B, you don't have a market to sell it to because you don't really know much about it. And then C, you get to go learn about the thing you just traded for to see if you made a good deal or if you made a shit deal. And it's really what's been exciting about buying, selling, trading knives in this community. Not only about having knives, but really join that community and think about and listen to what is important to somebody to have them make a type of purchase on a knife, a Zippo, a flashlight, where it's an unrealistic expectation that that same tool could be $50 at Home Depot versus what we're spending in the community.
Right. Like, I mean, I was the same way. Like when I first started my collection, like I held off from making purchases over $500, like a single $500 knife. Like I just thought that was too expensive because that's pretty much like what a camera lens is worth, like 500 and up, like if I had that sort of money, like maybe I'll just get like a brand new camera lens instead. Like, I mean, that's I mean, you see people who are also into firearms where they can't justify like more expensive knives because that's firearms money. But I mean, I when I bought my first Chris Reeves like back in November, that kind of just like broke the barrier for me into like higher end stuff. But for the longest time, I was into Spyderco's and Benchmades, and now like I mean, I still have some Benchmades and some Spyderco's, but like not as invested into them as I am into like higher end stuff. Um, with me, I don't really have any like funny like recent sales stories, but I had a nightmare sales story which evened out. But I was doing this. This was like way back, like last fall. I was doing this trade for basically I was trading two knives for two knives out in the UK where I was getting like the favorable deal because like who really wants to deal with international shipping if you're not getting a favorable deal, right? So I encountered the worst nightmare possible where the package that I was sending out got sent back to me. So I got it settled out. Like the other guy who I was trading with, he has the package now finally, and back in like winter, like probably like December. But it came back to me, and I ended up losing actually like $100 on that deal just to like try to get it squared and shipped away. So that's why I'm only sticking to United States shipping for now on. Like, I mean, like other people have like their own justifications for like why they don't ship internationally, or like some people are comfortable doing that. I just for one am not, just because I don't want to deal with all that like uh trouble pretty much.
Yeah, I recently sold a piece, and a gentleman wanted to know if I would send it international, and I said no. I said I got no problem sending it to somebody else in the states that wants to send it international, but I'm not going to be responsible for sending something international when I could sell it to somebody domestically for the same price. So
Exactly.
I
you,
think that
you
that's a fair understanding of how to keep yourself limited from exposure, from, like you said, added cost. Gets caught in customs, gets lost. You don't have insurance. And especially with insurance, I hear all these horror stories. If you don't have a copy of the receipt, these guys won't, pay for it. And it's like, why deal with that agita, especially international? So I keep it domestic any chance that I can.
exactly. So one knife I recently bought was yesterday actually. So I bought a TRM Atom from a member in the Vero chat group.
You can't talk about that knife. You don't even have it in hand yet.
I I bought it though. I made the PayPal transaction.
Come on, you're not even holding the damn thing. You're gonna talk about the knife. Come
Well,
on.
no. It's just a reason why I bought the knife, right?
Uh,
So my most recent purchase. So me and my girlfriend were getting a Yorkie, and so TRM, they're a knife company with a Yorkie mascot. I don't even know anything about this company yet. I'm in the group. I'm learning about them, but like I did not do any prior research to this.
the
But
Vero chat is all about that fucking TRM stuff. I mean, all over it.
Yeah,
Replaceable scales. It got different knives. It's hysterical. So I understand why you'd be
yeah. I
into it.
mean, it's the way I do like the idea that it's very customizable. Like the whole entire, like I do like that you can make it your own. It's kind of like
Hinderer.
yeah, Hinderer and like Spyderco's and stuff like that,
You could
where you
bedazzle your own vajayjay.
yeah, but so yeah, me and my girlfriend, we're getting a Yorkie, and their mascot's a Yorkie, and I just thought like this be a perfect knife to commemorate the memory. But yeah, that's basically my whole entire reason for buying that knife, and it's definitely going to be a keeper.
Well, you say that once you get it in hand is when you determine it's a keeper. I don't
Right.
know, man. I can't tell you how many knives I buy where I say
Hmm.
this is going to be a keeper, and then you have it, you flick it once, you go, this is garbage. And then, like, remember the video I did on the Yojimbo? I had it in my
Yeah.
hand. All I kept saying was, why do people love this knife? Why do people love this knife? And then all of a sudden, I reverse Spidey flicked it, and holy
Hmm.
shit, it was like the fucking gates of heaven opened up, and there were angels were singing. I couldn't believe how comfortable this fucking knife was in my hand to reverse Spidey flick, and then bam, thwack. This is awesome. And
Yeah,
it's like so
yeah,
funny about the first interpretation to something growing, and how that really stands to determine whether or not it's going to be a knife that you're going to love or a knife that you're going to swap out.
yeah. Like, actually, funny you say that because I was actually recently trying to sell my giant mouse Nimbus D2 just because it didn't bring me the same amount of joy that the first one I bought did, and I regretted selling the first one, so I bought a second one at a decent price too, like 150, and it had the worst action on it for some ungodly reason. Like I could not Spidey flick it, I could barely thumb flick it, and so I was just like, you know what, maybe it's just like a bad batch or whatever. So I'm just gonna sell this at like what I paid for, and and then like or cut a loss or trade it or whatever. But like this morning I decided to take it completely apart, like pretty much all the way down to the blade, and cleaned it, lubed it, and then reassembled it, and I got the action back to pretty much uh like the smoothness of it is just amazing now. I don't know what was wrong with it or like beforehand, but I fixed it and it's perfectly centered. It had mild blade play, but now like it's just 10 out of 10. Like I'm withdrawing it. I'm keeping it now. So I'm very happy about that for today. So
I know all about that. I just sold a knife to Kyle Terrell from D-Tom. His YouTube page is
mhm.
D-Tom Knives and Gear. What a fucking rad dude. I mean, thoroughly. If you're not catching his videos on YouTube yet, you should definitely give it a shot. He does a great job talking about what speaks to him about the knife. And I sold him an Evo, rotten Evo, dark, TI, Damascus, and everything, and
Mhm.
he got it in hand, and the pivot was loose. Now, it wasn't loose when I had it, but it just wasn't fitting to his liking. So he did the same thing. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Custom Knife Factory, they ship you a pouch of spare parts. If something doesn't fit right, you can swap it out. So he took it all the way down, replaced the lock bar insert, the bearings, the pivot, put it all back together. Good as new. Sent me a text message. He's going to do an unboxing video of that today, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. But it's just funny about how particular one knife is to somebody else. You sell a knife to a guy that reviews knives, he's going to want it his particular way. You sell that same knife to somebody who doesn't have a higher level of understanding. Well, the little bit of blade play in the knife was okay. And it's just great to hear about how taking a knife that don't like, don't love, doesn't speak to you, and giving it a chance, stripping it down, and getting it to where you're like, all right, fuck it, this is a keeper, or at least for the next week.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's something special about like well-built knives. Like I mean like there's different like types of knives. Like for instance like Brian Brown knives. Like the Jaeger is a very well-built knife. Like I haven't had the chance to funnel with it yet.
You can't say that. You can't say on the
Like
phone. This is our first freaking podcast. You're gonna
what?
say that a Brian Brown knife is great built knife, but you haven't touched one. Come on. Look,
But listen, like the design, the
uh-uh,
overall design of it.
You can't speak to it. Nope. Because I was
I
gonna
can
talk
speak.
about Craig Brown and how
Uh-huh.
great Craig. So I got an LHCX the other day. Do you
Hmm.
know that there's only two screws needed to take the fucking thing down?
There's only two screws, really?
Two screws, and they're the same fucking bit.
I love that on a knife when it's the same bit.
That's what I'm saying. And again, this is no shit talking to Brian Brown because
Right,
I can't speak to it because I haven't had one yet. But
right,
and again, different things mean stuff to different people. You want to talk
right.
about being fucking wild? Two screws, the whole fucking side comes off. It's got captured bearings, titanium liners or titanium, frame,
Mhm.
and that's it. The only other
There's
screws you have is for the back spacer and the pocket clip, which who the fuck needs to touch them when you're just maintaining the action of a knife? Two
this is
screws.
this is just a personal preference of mine, but like I really, really enjoy knives that only have one bit size.
Fuck yeah! Are you kidding me? Even the
Be-
Holtz, you know?
because it makes the whole nuance of disassembling a knife, like the experience of it, just a little bit better.
Let me give you this tidbit. He actually has a cortex, an engraving of the brain in the frame of his cortex. You know why? Because he wants you to take that thing apart. He wants you to clean it. He wants you to maintain it. He wants you to love that knife. He wants you to find that little Easter egg inside the scale. And like you said, the stuff that you give a shit about that you wouldn't think you'd give about until you broke down. Oh, you had that issue with the Spyderco scales, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I had the same issue. I tried swapping out something. I forget what it was. I think I tried to swap out the blade on my Maximet Spider PM2 on
Yeah.
my S30V. I couldn't get the damn collar apart. I said, fuck this. I put it back together and said, I'll deal with the fucking cockeyed blade shape on that thing just because.
Right, exactly. But back to Brian Brown really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
He is like his whole entire IG story right now is all about the Raptor. And I just think that knife looks really cool and I'm ready for that pre-order. So that's the new knife that's on my radar.
And it's so funny because the new knife on my radar is the Chimera. And I think that those two knives are really battling for the spot of knife of the year. I don't know about you.
Well, I have no idea if it's going to be knife of the year, but like I mean, it's half the year is gone. Um
Come on, listen, you got all the Brian Brown fanboys are going to be
oh
all over the fact that
yeah,
this new Raptor is going to be the knife of the year. Now, I'm only directly comparing it because they're two thumb stud operated knives. I believe they're both lock bars, frame locks, and they're both on bearings. So, not to say one is better than the other because we don't know because
right,
the Raptor hasn't even been built yet. And
right.
my Chimera is coming on Monday, so I'll be able to speak volumes to it. But
All right, so I'm gonna correct you right there really quickly. It's Chimera.
okay, thank you, because I had no idea. Yeah,
uh, but yeah,
and
I
I'm never
think
going to read it like that. I'm
I
just never going to
think
read it that way.
I think it's supposed to be pronounced Chimera because I play a lot of video games. But who knows? Maybe like in the knife world it's pronounced differently. But I think it's pronounced Chimera. Kind of like where some people, in fact, that I've met that have pronounced chameleon as chameleon,
Hmm.
but I'm pretty sure it's Chimera.
This is like watermelon, right?
Yeah. But but yeah, so since we're talking about like different knives that we're into, knife buying and selling, what in your words are some of the number one top knife buying etiquettes that you as a buyer and seller partake in and really appreciate?
So I'm going to say one of the things, maybe it's not the top, but it's a bone in contention that we were talking about inside the Vero chat.
Hmm.
And I don't care for somebody trying to negotiate with me on a comment or on a subreddit or on post on my Blade forum. If you want to discuss price, if you want to discuss the condition of the knife, send me a message because it's our discussion at that point, and that's something that I really hold true to.
Hmm.
Let's have a discussion and a dialogue, not on a public forum, and then we can have a discussion about the knife. Send in a blank comment on a post with a number with nothing associated to it, in my opinion, is almost kind of like a slap in the face because that means I undervalued you so much that I'm going to throw a number and see what you think. And, that means you're not taking the person who's selling the knife into consideration because obviously they have to sell it for a reason. And
Right.
talking about that reason sometimes allows you to come up with a number that's understanding versus just throwing a number that says, hey, if you want to get rid of the knife, I'm ready to go at this price, which is certainly something you can have a conversation with in a direct message. But, to me, I don't care for that very much.
I think I think that speaks to me as well. Like definitely taking negotiation and just overall like dialogue of the knife that you're interested in out of the public eye and just like into a private chat box. Like it creates not only like a more intimate like playing field, but a more respectable playing field, because not only are you guys going to negotiate, but if you guys come to a deal that you both agree on, that might be a potential friendship that like you've may develop in the future. And I've turned so many of people who I sell knives to and bought knives from into actually like friends in the knife community. And I really value that. Like I mean, like as in when I, especially when I was like first coming in, and like it's the EDC community can be a little bit harsh on like beginners who don't know the proper rules and stuff, but like you learn quick. And like part of being a newcomer, like the vouch system, like it's hard getting vouches from people if you haven't done any trades and stuff with people. And another etiquette thing I think is very important is not trying to undercut a deal on somebody. By that I mean, like, say if person A offers you $500 for a knife and then you agree to it, but then like person B offers you more. Since you already agreed to person A, you shouldn't be going after person B's offer, even if it's more, because you guys already mentally agreed on it. And like transact, and especially if you have their money already in your PayPal, like you can't just refund that and then go for more money. I mean, I've seen people do that in the community. I just wouldn't be doing business with them because like of that type of character. I just don't agree with. But other than that, you pretty much like covered like the main etiquette when it comes to like knife buying and selling. So any drops next week that are you looking for?
I don't think I have anything on my radar next week, to be honest, right now. Do you?
Next week I have three things possibly. Um, so back to Brian Brown. He says that it might be next week that the Raptor pre-order might be available. Might be the week after that. There's still no word about it, but just keeping ears low on the ground, feelers out there to see when that will be happening. EDC Foundry is also getting new Koenig Arius in, I believe, next week.
Yeah,
At prob
people are talking about that. I haven't been able to lock down anything specific on that.
Yeah,
So, that's up in the air. I know that uh, Bill Koenig and the Koenig team are really getting amped up for whatchamacallit, the Blade Show. And
yeah,
I,
definitely.
I don't know if you guys know it, but there was a recent drop of 57s, the Koenig Arius 57s. I
Hmm.
managed to get my hands on one, and the one that I have is number 56. So if you think about it, there's only been 56 or so of these 57s. So
Right.
uh, I'm not sure what kind of fire he's going to be dropping after just dropping the 57s, and that the fact that Blade shows in a month and a half. So
I,
very
I
well,
would I would love it to be DLC blades. That
yeah,
that that would be
me too.
fun.
You haven't had a DLC Arius
No,
yet. I've
no, I
had
haven't.
two, and they're fucking phenomenal. And I'm so pissed that I let him go. But I just can't stay with a Gen 2. My fucking hands ride the lock bars. And
Th-
the Gen 4s have a little bit easier tuning, I guess you could say. And
mhm.
the orientation geometry of the flipper tab was changed a little bit in the Gen
Yeah.
4s.
Hmm.
And if I miss deploy on a Gen 2, my fucking finger feels it. And it made a great user. But
Yeah, like the Gen 2, the flipper tab, it's like a little claw
it is.
almost.
Yep.
So like you're basically stabbing yourself. Like
Without a doubt, when you ride that lock bar. And, like the Gen 4 hinderers were kind of like that too. The first time I had one, I was riding the lock
mhm.
bar and I fucking almost threw the damn thing. Just just couldn't get my hand off the lock bar. Nothing wrong with the knife. Everybody loves them. I fucking couldn't stand it.
Definitely. Like I've actually owned a Gen 2 Arius. It was my first Arius actually. I just got it off of some dude in the Koenig BST group, and like I was appalled by it. Like I was like, this is what an Arius is. Like I was turned off immediately. So, but then one of my friends was like, dude, you should try Gen 4 instead, and it's like give him another chance. I was like, okay, fine, fine. And so I got the first Gen 4 from DLT when they dropped the texture ones, and holy shit, was that a difference. From Gen 2 to Gen 4, it feels different. It sounds different. Like it's a completely different knife. Wouldn't
You
you
know,
agree?
without a doubt, even the sound, like you said, um, and I couldn't reverse Spidey flick up until like 3 months ago. I had a whippersnapper, and my buddy Kyle, my buddy Jason, they literally were sending me videos about how to reverse Spidey flick. Now I can't imagine not reverse Spidey flicking in Arius. And fuck you, Koenig, because of you and because of Olamic and because of you guys with your multiple deployment options, having a regular fucking flipper sucks. I want a flipper with a front flipper tab and a Spidey hole. And I know it's hysterical to think about that shit, but fuck, man, just the first time you reverse Spidey flick a snapper or an Arius, man, it's just awesome. And
It's the nuance of it all, pretty
yeah,
much.
without a doubt. And like you said, the sound, uh, they fucking differ between batches. I've had Gen 3s, I've had Gen 4 batch 3s, Gen 4 batch 4s, Gen 4 batch 5s, and they're all a little different. And it's fucking hysterical. I don't know how it is, but these knives, depending on the type of stonewash, depending on hand rub, depending on bright wash, depending on textured scales, they're all fucking different. And that's why it's so great to have a community where we could buy, sell, exchange, trade knives. Okay, I want to try a textured, I want to try a plain Jane. And it's fucking awesome, you know? And the
Yeah,
guys like Wes at EDC Foundry doing everything he can to get them into our hands. DLT Trading, USA Made Blades. It is a limited batch of Koenigs out there. And thanks, guys, for doing whatever you can to make sure we get our hands on some.
oh yeah, definitely. And all these drops, like I really appreciate of all these businesses having their own Facebook groups, because like without those groups, you wouldn't be able to get your hands on any of these knives.
Yeah, well, it's like Koenig and those 57s. I had no fucking idea they were dropping. They don't announce them. Just happens to be some random asshole that goes on there. I think this time it was Dan, and he let the group know, and everybody was able to jump on one and score one. But
Yeah, like the Spyderco Swish Bowie. Like I had no idea Knife Joy was like making like a comeback of those until it was posted in the Spyderco group, like the Millie group.
hey, can we talk about fucking Knife Joy for a little bit? They caught
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of flack, man, a lot of
yeah,
flack. But
yeah.
I know the guys there. Chris Miller is a solid guy, and the rest of that team, they really are trying to do everything they can for us, for the knife community. And you know, I'm not sure Google could have handled the amount of traffic that was on that page to get those. You know?
I mean, like it's still sold out. So like whatever like reputation hit that they got, they know who their loyal customers are, and they've got their objective completed. They've made their money, and they even announced that like they're going to make more variations, or at least that's what the rumor is. But like I mean, even in the secondary market, not saying eBay because eBay is just outrageous. Those Bowies going for like $1,000, but like in the secondary market too, like people are selling them at cost because it's their first time being introduced to that particular blade, and or if they're just trying to flip it, and it's not like a obscene upcharge. It's like I've seen one go for 500 or whatever. Um, I just personally think that it's just not my style. Like I loathe wire clips. Like it hurts me that like my Nimbus, my Giant Mouse Nimbus has a wire clip. But pretty much the Bowie, like I passed up on it just because like it just wasn't my style.
And it's funny you say that because I'm staring at two wire clips right here.
Uh-huh.
One is on my Sage One, which is probably one of my favorite knives. Again, another liner lock, terrific deployment, and smooth action on the phosphor bronze washers. And I can't wait to compare this to the Swiss Bowie because this is very similar in the footprint. It's I mean, I know the Bowie's a frame lock, so I'm interested to see if it gives me problems like other ones. But they're very similar in footprint, and both are wire clip. And this is going to be one of the knives that I'm going to review on Tuesday when my Bowie gets in here, because I really think it's a direct comparison. And it's funny too. Both of these are made in the Taichung facility, and
Hmm.
I really think they were getting a lot of flack because it's Taichung, it's Taiwan. Fuck you. If you
Well,
haven't held a Taiwan-made Spyderco, you can't talk shit because they do
well,
a great job.
well. So there's different tiers of different types of knife buyers, right? So the Spyderco crowd, I would say, is more of a traditionalist knife buyer who haven't really expanded their palette into like higher end stuff, which is like some of them are made in China, like such as like production Chavez knives, right? Like Riot makes those, right? So I just think they're just of the traditionalist mentality of like American made, like metal made in America is better, blah blah blah, stuff like that. So with that kind of mentality, obviously they're not going to go for it. But the most complaint I've seen actually about the Bowie is that it's $400. That it was a little bit more expensive than people's liking. And I understand their frustration because it's like it's a $400 Spyderco, right? But one of the members brought like a few of the members actually brought up a very good point about this, is that the over time, like right, like at one point the PM2 was like what, like $120 or whatever, and now a regular PM2 is like 150. So like over time, like things just go up in price and stuff.
You don't have to speak to me about that. I'm in a manufacturing engineering, and the price of steel goes up. My first PM2 I bought was $105 on Amazon, G10 S30V, and I thought it was great. You want to laugh? My buddy went to a real retail shop the other day. He paid 165 for the exact same knife, and I didn't have the heart to tell him that he overpaid. But when I looked it up, that's fucking fair market right now. You can't get a used PM2 for under $125. And it's so funny about people complaining about price. I don't know if you know this. Knife Joy, and I can't speak to this 100%, but hypothetically, Knife Joy had to foot the bill to produce 1,200 fucking Bowies.
Exactly.
You don't do that to make 5% on a knife. Now, again, I'm not talking about Knife Joy's pockets, but in manufacturing, the more you build, the better price you get. So if they were able to get 1,200 built, and I don't know what the cost to them were, but just think about it. If it cost them $100 a knife, you know what I mean? You're talking about 120 grand to foot the bill. Even if the price to manufacture went up a little bit and Knife Joy put their markup on there, at the end of the day, it's a business. I don't know. I got no problem with Knife Joy putting anodization on it. That costs money. And forgive me, I don't think the original Bowie was M390. Am I correct with that? Wasn't the original Bowie S30V?
Yeah, the original Bowie, I would have to look that up actually, but it wasn't M390. That I know for sure.
It was not, right?
Yeah, it was not M390.
No, it wasn't. So now you got a better steel. Now you got a better, you have anodization. It's CTS XHP. You got a better steel. You got anodization. So those are two things that are going to drive the price up. You got the cost of steel. You got the cost of components that'll drive that up. And overhead. I don't know about you guys, but that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money to do this. What about marketing? Now Knife Joy's got to market it. Knife
Yeah,
Joy's got to pay
definitely.
the staff to get the website. I talked to Krista one day and he said they shipped 600 knives in one fucking day.
So
Whose time is that?
exactly. So I have the specs here, and the original Bowie was CTS XHP.
Yeah, just lift it up. Come on, you're too slow. No, it's all good, man. But regardless of that, it's been fucking entertaining. I can't wait to get my hands on mine. I paid $400 for it. I don't care whatever it is. I'm gonna fucking try it. I'm gonna give it to
Mhm.
my buddy EDC Layman. I'm gonna let him try it. He's got smaller hands than me. I would love to see how somebody that has Nick Shabazz type hands feels about that knife, because I don't even know if I could give it an honest opinion, because my hands are fucking big. I like big size knives. To be honest, that Sage one is probably a scotch too small, and I still love it. A mini grip that don't fit in my hand. Anything with less than a 3-inch blade, no fucking way. So, and that's where getting your hand on a knife and personally reviewing it and speaking to it really lends itself over taking somebody else's word, a review, or even listening to us at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna wrap today up. I think we're at our mark. So this is to get you guys who are listening involved. And so pretty much every episode is just going to be us talking about different knife topics and things going on in the EDC world and the knife community. So if you guys have any sort of like things that you want us to go over, such as like different knives to look out for, or like methods of like finding really cool knives, or like just any sort of advice, like we give you our honest opinion if you want it, maybe you don't, and pretty much whatever else you guys might think might be a good idea for this podcast. We're always open to suggestions and constructive criticism. So we're going to wrap this up. Make sure to follow us on our socials. I'm on Instagram at NYC Knife Life. So if you guys just like look that up, give me a follow, like my pictures, that'd be great. What about you, Joe?
You can find me, Watson and the Shark, on Instagram or YouTube at Mo Bravo, MoeBravo, and my knife reviews videos. And always see me trolling on Everyday Blades, which is where I primarily hang out most of the time.
Yep. All right. So catch you guys later.
All
Tune
right.
into the next episode. See ya.
Take care, everybody. Bye.